Hi class, here I am at the top of page 91. So let's begin. Attractive. You've done wonders for her, Miss Sullivan. Have I? If there's anything you want from us in repayment, tell us. It will be a privilege to... I just told Mrs. Keller I want more time. Miss Annie? Another week. Helen lifts her hands and begins to sniff. We miss the child. I miss her. I'm glad to say that's a different debt I owe you. Pay it to Helen. Give her another week. Doesn't she miss us? Of course she does. What a wretch this unexplainable exile must be to her. Can you say it's not? No, but Helen is off the stool to grope about the room. When she encounters Belle, she throws her arms around the dog's neck in delight. Doesn't she need affection too, Miss Annie? She never shows me she needs it. She won't have any caressing or... But you're not her mother. And what would another week accomplish? We are more than satisfied. You've done more than we ever thought possible. Taught her, constructive. I can't promise anything. All I can, things to do, to behave like, even look like a human child. No manageable, contented, cleaner, more cleaner? Well, we say cleanliness is next to godliness, Miss. Cleanliness is next to nothing. She has to learn that everything has its name, that words can be her eyes to everything in the world outside her and inside her, too. What is she without words? With them she can think, have ideas, be reached, but there's not a thought or fact in the world that can't be hers. You publish a newspaper, Captain Keller. Do I have to tell you what words are? And she has them already. Miss Sullivan. 18 nouns and 3 verbs. They're in her fingers now. I need only time to push one of them into her mind. One, and everything under the sun will follow. Don't you see what she's learned here is only clearing the way for that? I can't risk her unlearning it. Give me more time alone with her. Another week to... Look. He points, and Annie turns. Helen is playing with Belle's claws. She makes letters with her fingers, shows them to Belle, waits with her palm, then manipulates the dog's claws. What is she spelling? Water? Annie nods. Teaching a dog to spell. A dog doesn't know what she means any more than she knows what you mean, Miss Sullivan. I think you ask too much of her and yourself. God may not have meant Helen to have the eyes you speak of. Well, I mean her to. What is it to you? Annie's head comes up slowly. You make us see how we indulge her for our sake. Is the opposite true for you? Half a week. An agreement is an agreement. Mrs. Keller? I want her back. Annie then lets her hands drop in surrender and nods. I'll send Vinny over to help you pack. Not until 6 o'clock. I have her till 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. Come, Katie. Kate, leaving the window, joins him around back, while Keller closes the door. They are shut out. Only the garden house is daylight now, and the light on is narrowing down. Annie stands watching Helen work Belle's claws. Then she settles beside them on her knees and stops Helen's hand. No. She shakes her head with Helen's hand on her face, then spells dog. D-O-G. Dog. She touches Helen's hand to Belle. Helen dutifully pats the dog's head and resumes spelling into its paw. Not water. Helen rolls her feet, begins to tumble, brings a tumbler of water back from the tray, and kneels with it to seize Annie's hand and spell. Here. Water. Water. She thrusts Helen's hand into the tumbler. Helen lifts her hand out, dripping, wipes it daintily on Belle's hide, and taking the tumbler from Annie, endeavors to thrust Belle's paw into it. Annie sits watching wearily. I don't know how to tell you. Not a soul in the world knows how to tell you, Helen. Helen! She bends in compassion to touch her lips to Helen's temple, and instantly Helen pauses, her hands off the dog, her head slightly averted. The lights are still narrowing, and Belle slinks off. After a moment, Annie sits back. Yes. What's it to me? They're satisfied. Give them back their child and dog, both housebroken. Everyone's satisfied, but me and you. Helen's hand comes out into the light, groping. Reach, reach. Annie, extending her own hand, grips Helen. The two hands are clasped tight in the light, the rest of the room changing in the shadow. I wanted to teach you, oh, everything the earth is full of. Helen, everything on this, ours for a wing, and it's gone, and what we are on it, the light we bring to it and leave behind in words. Why, you can't see 5,000 years back in a light of words. Everything we feel, think, know, and share in words. So no soul is in the darkness, or done with, even in the grave. And I know one word, and I can put the world in your hand. And whatever it is to me, I won't take less. How do I tell you this? She spells. Means a word. The word means this. Wool. She thrusts the wool in Helen's hand. Helen sits, puzzled. Annie puts the crocheting aside. Oh, this. S-T-O-O-L. Means the thing. Stool. She clasps Helen's palm to the stool. Helen waits, uncomprehending. Annie snatches up her napkin, spells napkin. She forces it in Helen's hands, waits, discards it, lifts a fold of the child's dress, spells dress. She lets it fall, spells F-A-C-E, face. She draws Helen's hand to her cheek, and pressing it there, staring into the child's responseless eyes, hears the distant belfry begin to toll. Slowly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On the third stroke, the light streaming in around the garden house show us figures waiting. Benny, the other servant, Martha, Percy at the drapes, and James on the dim porch. Annie and Helen remain, frozen. The chimes die away. Silently, Percy moves the drape rod back, out of sight. Vinny steps into the room, not using the door, and unmakes the bed. The other servants brings the wheelbarrow over, leaves it handy, rolls up the bed. Vinny puts the bed linens on top of the waiting boxful of Helen's toys and loads the box on the wheelbarrow. Martha and Percy take out the chairs with the trayful, then the table, and James, coming down into the room, lifts Annie's suitcase from its corner. Vinny and the other servant load the remaining odds and ends on the wheelbarrow, and the servant wheels it off. Vinny and the children, departing, leave only James in the room with Annie and Helen. James studies the two of them without mockery, and then, quietly going to the door and opening it, bears the suitcase out, and housewards. He leaves the door open. Kate steps into the doorway and stands. Annie, lifting her gaze from Helen, sees her. She takes Helen's hand from her cheek and returns it to the child's own, stroking it there twice, in her mother's sign, before spelling slowly into it. M-O-T-H-E-R, mother. Helen, with her hand free, strokes her cheek, suddenly forlorn. Annie takes her hand again. M-O-T-H. But Kate is trembling with such impatience that her voice breaks from her harsh, "Let her come!" Annie lifts Helen to her feet with a turn, and gives her a little push. Now Helen begins groping, sensing something, trembling herself, and Kate, falling one step into her knees, clasps her, kissing her. Helen clutches her tight as she can. Kate is inarticulate, choked, repeating Helen's name again and again. Kate wheels with her in her arms. Two stumble away out the doorway. Annie stands unmoving, while Kate, in a blink, carries Helen like a baby behind the main house, out of view. Annie is now alone on stage. She turns gazing around at the striped room, bidding it silent farewell, impassively, like a defeated general on the deserted battlefield. All that remains is a stand with a basin of water, and here Annie takes up an eye cup, bathes each of her eyes, empties the eye cup, drops it in her purse, and tiredly locates her smoked glasses on the floor. The lights alter subtly. In the act of putting on her glasses, Annie hears something that stops her, with head lifted. We hear it too, the voices out of the past, including her own, in a whisper. "You said we'd be together forever. You promised forever, and Annie." But the battle is dead and done with. Why not let it stay buried? "I think God must owe me a resurrection." "What?" A pause, and Annie answers herself heavily. "And I owe God one." "Forever and ever." Annie shakes her head. "Forever and ever." Annie covers her ears. "Forever and ever." It pauses. She flees to snatch up her purse, wheels to the doorway, and color is standing in it. The light